Alright, so we're going to start off with this project by tracing out this edge, the very outer edge of the logo, and cut it out so that I have my template. And then once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and attach it. Figure a way how to trace it onto my hardboard here and then cut that out as well. So we'll get started. Alright, now moving on to my second piece, my other board. Now I'm going to trace or cut out all the black so that really the gold is what I want to keep as my stencil for the next piece. Alright, now that I have this part of the logo cut out, I'm just overlaying my two boards. So I have my upper board where I just cut the outer shape. Underneath it is my second layer where I'll cut this piece of the logo out. I'm just setting it up right now where I can make sure it's centered so I don't have to try to trim things later. And yeah, I'm going to tape it down a little bit, remove the top layer, and then I'll add my paint so I know where to cut. Alright, now that I have this piece cut out and finished up, this is what it will look like. This is the first piece that I cut. When I layer them, it gives it some 3D dimensionality to it. So painting scheme will be different between the two layers so that it pops. Need to figure out what to do in this negative space here, but so far I'm liking how it looks. Alright, so I just decided to put this together just to get a quick idea about what it will look like. I have 3 layers, the very back. This will get painted black likely. I'm not sure what to do as far as making it look different besides the black. I do want to put some nice element to it. I'm just not sure yet. The next layer is the main part where we have the C and the U, of course in the shape of the buffalo, and then the top layer where it's the outermost outline. So I'm gonna go ahead and start sanding this down, cleaning up the edges so that I can paint at least the middle layer. I might do, I don't know, maybe a nice gray on the top layer, the gold here, the second layer, and then black on the back layer. So we'll get to it. Alright, here we are. This is the second coat of the primer. So letting that dry before I actually paint it with the real colors. Alright, now that the second coat has dried, I'm going to paint it this color called Ghost Rider. It's a gray. So this will be the first layer that will be on top of everything. I think it'll tie everything together. I'm not sure, but this is what I'll be using. Ghost Rider. First coat was nice and dry, so I'm going to add the second coat. this is nearly almost done. What I want to do is put some spacing between this gold layer and this black layer so that I can sandwich this lighting in between, and you can use really any combination of light. It says choose from tunable white or millions of colors. So with the remote, you can just change whatever color you want. And my hope is that from the backside, it's going to illuminate inward. So I need spacers to at least the width of this strip between these two boards so that I can mount this. To do that, I'm just going to use some leftover baseboard. I'm going to cut it, rip it down to the thickness that I want, and then I can place them around where I need to. Alright, I'm getting ready to make the frame. So what I picked up is a couple of furring strips. So these are 1 by 2 by 8 feet. That'll be plenty for my 4 by 3. So total I will need 14 linear feet. So this gives me 16. I will go ahead and once I make the grooves with my router bit, I will cut these down to the appropriate length. Alright, this is what I'm going to do with my router bit. This is a rabbiting bit. I'm going to trim it down to have a little insert area where the actual painting or the hardboard will go in. Since this furring strip is about 2 inches, it's actually 1.75. I will take it down 0.75 because it's actually an inch thick. So I'll mark my line out and I'll run it through, and that should give me a nice little place to insert it. Alright, you can see this first groove now. Still not the depth that I need it, so I just strap this down a little bit more just to take it off just a tiny bit more. So we'll go ahead and do the second pass. Now I'm actually going to cut the 45-degree angles for these pieces so that I can actually make them, so that it'll look like a nice clean fit. Now that I have this cut, I'm going to need, since this is going to be my very corner edge, I'm going to need 4 feet from this very corner down, measuring down this way. So I'll measure that and then I'll cut that piece, and then I'll have one edge of my frame. Alright, so I finished the frame, at least cutting it lengthwise. Now, originally it comes kind of rounded and beveled, and that's going to be the front face of the actual frame and picture. I don't think that looks nice. You can kind of see that kind of concave. So I went ahead and used my table saw, used a scrap piece, and just ripped it so it has this nice straight edge. This was just a practice cut, and I think it looks much better. It's going to look clean, it's going to look level, it's going to look flat. So I went ahead and did that for all 4 pieces of the frame, and this is what I have. So now it's a matter of sanding them down first to make sure there's no rough edges. Probably glue it together, maybe add a staple here and there at the corners, and then stain it. Alright, just a quick update. Unfortunately, this style of framing was just not going to work. It was too brittle on the corners. The concept was ideal, but execution just was not there. So I tried to salvage it. I couldn't. So I scrapped that. And I went ahead and remade these ones. So what I have here are an outer frame, which is this one, and then a inner frame, which is this one. So most of these were just straight cuts. I did rip some of these down from the 1x2 furring strips to the thickness I wanted. So when I combine all poster boards, this outer frame will be the same thickness, which includes my spacer as well. So the idea is to have essentially this go on the inside, like so. And that will provide a little section or a recessed area, and the boards will sit directly on this inner frame here, on this. So I'll have my backboard, which fits this here. This is exactly 4x3, which is the dimension of the hardboard, and then this is the outer frame. So it fits, maybe a little snug. Not everything is square, but that's okay. So that's where I'm at. This is a different type of frame I made instead. I think it looks cleaner, it's sturdier, it feels. So yeah, I think I'm happy with this. I'm not sure what I want to do with it, if I want to stain it or I might paint it. One of the things that I'll end up doing is maybe buying some crown molding or something to put on the front end, the front facing side. That will act as a, kind of a nice decorative piece to this, but also hold everything in so it doesn't fall out of the frame. And then on the back, I will probably put some kind of corner brace here so that it adds a little bit of sandwiching effect of all the boards. Alright, so this is the frame that I have now. It's just a simple square frame. So I went ahead and picked up some molding that I'll use for the edges of the frame. I don't know if you can see the details. Let me bring that closer. Yep. So that's kind of the details that I'll have, and what this will go is right around the edges here. So I need to make my miter cuts in 45 degrees, put the 4 edges together, and then stain it. sanded the frames to kind of knock off some of the wood glue that just was excess. So right now I have it assembled, but I'm not done yet because I do want to glue the front face to the frame. So right now I have it mocked up. You can see some of the details here. This is the inner frame that will be used as my spacer. Then I have my outer frame here, and then I have the front face. Right now we're looking at the back side. So I'm just lighting it up, getting it ready. I'm gonna use a tack cloth on the back side because I did do some sanding. Clean it up a little bit and then get it ready for glue. And then I'll clamp these down once I put some glue on it and let that dry. The inner frame here will stay in place just so I know that it will fit, it won't shift, so that when I do finally assemble everything, it will go in nice and easy. Alright, here's the finished frame after adding some polyurethane coating onto it. So there's a nice shine to it. I don't think the camera is capturing it very well, but it has a nice finish to it. I also went ahead and poly the exposed surfaces of the picture. So right now I have it kind of mocked up. I did have to trim some of the boards to fit the actual frame. Because the backside is not 100% square, but that's alright. It's all hidden, still looks really nice. So after trimming it, these 3x4s just a little bit, it fits really good. And right now I have the top two layers, so those will be sandwiched together. And then in the back will be this background. So you can see some, little subtle mountain, at least the attempt to build some contrast between the mountains with a lighter shade of black. So it adds some context, not a whole lot. It's really subtle, and that'll show up behind the actual Buffalo logo. So it should look really good. That's also has not been polished actually. Not sure if I want to or not. But yeah, that's where we are. So I'm gonna go ahead and start assembling it a little bit more. I have these spacers here because I do have the border, right? I made that border around the entire thing to give that three-dimensional look. But in between, where the CU logo is, there's no support there. There's no gap. So I have these little blocks to kind of help with that. I painted them black so it doesn't stand out if you're looking through it from the side. At least that's my hope. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of mock this up and see where it takes me. I just want to explain a little bit more of this gap here. So this board here is the yellow layer, and then this is the actual outer frame, or the shadow box if you want to call it that. And this is my spacer that I'm using to add that 3-dimension. So you can look down here, this board, the black board, will go right on top of that. So this will be sandwiched in between to give it that nice depth perception. Alright, I want to show you the gap. So, alright, we have our space on the outside, so you can see this gap here. But if you look over here, there is no gap. So my plan is add that piece there, and we're in a nice 3-dimension. Let's take a close-up of the gaps. I think it looks really good. Alright, so I have it all assembled and stacked. What I'm going to do now is I have the spacer here that I'm going to place in here so that it's flush with the rest of the frame. And then I have my most outer piece, and I'll glue that to the outer frame. That way the entire picture will stay in place and not move or fall back outwards. So I already have 2 of them done here and here, and they're drying. So I'll repeat it for the other 2 and it'll be done. Alright, this is pretty much done. I have all the back supports all glued and it's holding it well. So we can see kind of this 3D effect with that depth from the 3rd board. Now when I was picking it up, it felt kind of heavy. I'm wondering if my joints here for this shadow box, the outer frame here, zoom in a little bit, there you go. I don't know if that will hold the weight of everything over time. So what I'm going to do is drill some countersink holes and support it with some wood screws, just to give it that extra strength so that when it's hung up and hanging, it doesn't have a tendency to fall down. So I'm gonna add that and it will be finally done. Alright, this is the final product. I'm holding it just to give a frame of reference of how large this is. The board on the inside is a 4x3. With everything else, it's just a little bit over that. So let me know in the comments what you think about this. If you like these type of DIYs, I do a lot of stuff. Maybe more art projects in the future, home renovations I do a lot of, and a lot of random things really. So if you like this type of video, please be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you know when I get more videos up on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.